So welcome everyone. It's a very special day to be practicing together and meditating together. If we think of all the world religions gathered with this as a sacred day, and thinking of Passover, Ramadan, Easter, and we're coming up towards Sagadawa. So there's a sense of connecting with a net worldwide today that we can rejoice in. So we were interrupted by a snow day. I know you had a good meditation, but I want to just review where we left off. So for the foreseeable future, we'll be working with two texts that really clarify what meditation is. And it's Pema Chodron's very pithy How to Meditate and Thrangu Rinpoche's Tranquility and Insight, or Shamatha Vipassana. And Thrangu Rinpoche's books and most of his library is available for free at Namo Buddha Publications. And Annie, if you'd put that in the chat box. So he was one of this lifetime's great meditation masters. And upon his death, in gratitude for everything he's given, his students put up, I don't know whether he authored 100 books or 50 books, but most of them are up for free. And what's not for free is $1 or $2. So we join in gratitude on being at the same time in the world with such an extraordinary meditation master. So just to catch up, in the last session, we were going a little more into Venerable Pema Chodron's book that really talked about the qualities we have to meditate. And one is a steadfastness with ourselves. And the other aspect of that is gradual courage. With each meditation session, we have a little more courage, because in meditation, in silence, in turning inwards, as she phrases it, your entire being is exposed to yourself, first of all, but to others as well. So it's a process of connecting to our heart. And in this process of connecting to our heart, it is our heart as it is today, with all of its imperfections, that are becoming lessons in wisdom for us. So I think we all recognize what Pema Chodron was presenting. Everyone has meditated, at least some, and we know that our internal agitation, can be painful at times. And the more we meditate, we realize there's nothing we can hide from. So everything that we might like to be suppressed, or that we might like to not face, becomes apparent. And our habitual patterns that, as we say, sweep us away, become quickly something like a tidal wave pulling us out of our meditation session. Our mental habits of recalling distractions, recalling old wounds, thinking about the future, thinking about the past. We see all these habits and patterns as well. So I remember in an early retreat, at some point, my mind was so desperate for entertainment, I relived every single TV commercial I had seen as a child. So there's that agitation in the mind that just wants to escape this spotlight. So we are beginning meditation with a mind that has patterns of distraction, patterns of agitation, and we are learning about the first stages of shamatha, which is focusing on an external object, such as our breath. And we see, that there really is a mental effort of coming to stability and non-distraction. And as we do so with every meditation session, we are planting seeds of virtuous habits, and we are learning enormously about the Dharma and about our own minds. And even in the instructions of virtuous activity, there is a sequence. So there is the adage of first you listen to the Dharma, which is exterior. You're sitting, listening to someone expound the Dharma. So it's coming from the outside in. Then we're contemplating the Dharma. So we're using our intellect, our conceptual thoughts. And then the third instruction is to turn completely inwards, bringing the Dharma into our own direct experience, letting go of the intellect and allowing direct experience to arise without contrivance or without making something we think should happen. Without contrivance, it's as though you have all of these layers of transparent blinders or veils, and one veil at a time is removed with this direct experience. So it's effortless relative to the intellect, but it is dependent on non-distraction. So Thrangu Rinpoche, if we continue in his introduction, he gives a very clear definition that the nature of shamatha is the mind turning inwards and resting in that state. So that means that the mind is completely undistracted. And we learn in every meditation session, every kind of meditation, if we're sending love to someone in a loving kindness meditation, or if we're doing a visualization of a deity, we're still noticing distraction and non-distraction. We may have different objects, but our experience is either very turbulent and distracted in the sense that we have to keep coming back to the object, or there is an intellectual construction of what we think the meditation state might be. And so accomplishing shamatha is undistracted for as long as we wish to remain one-pointed. So there is an object, but we can rest there days, weeks, not 10 minutes, 20 minutes, a couple of hours. So then Thrangu Rinpoche continues, and I love in his introduction that he says, well, when we get to the second volume, there's a sense that, when we're meditating intermittently, we hear the same meditation instructions and definitions because we are meditating intermittently. And here he goes, okay, in the second volume, he talks about the nature of meditation. So these are experiences that we may have heard, but we don't recognize them as direct felt or directly realized, not an intellectual understanding or an intellectual construction, but a direct realization. And in some ways, I think that, for this time and place, we really need clear expectations. And so we could say that his second volume is addressing the kinds of meditation experiences that one might have when you're in retreat for a few months, or in the Kagyu tradition, and I think probably in all the Tibetan traditions, we have a 3-year retreat system. And when you get to the section on shamatha vipassana, whether it's called Mahamudra or Dzogchen, it's a 6-month retreat. And 2 months are just straightforward meditating on an outside object. And then we start to apply vipassana. So this is why we're intellectually hearing, but not experiencing, because these experiences come with a deeper, longer commitment to meditation. So what does that mean for us in our 21st century busy lives? Lives always were busy. There were always problems. So if we think of, in the Kagyu tradition, we have the layman Tilopa, who spent the latter part of his life essentially in a menial factory job. He was sitting on the ground pounding sesame seeds to get the oil out. But in an interior level, he was in one-pointed shamatha, in complete meditation, whether it was meditating on deities or meditating on Mahamudra or Vipassana. And then we also have the contemporary teacher, Thich Nhat Hanh, who greatly emphasizes how to move through the day with mindfulness. And what that means is moving through the day with continuous shamatha practice by doing mindfulness of body, mindfulness of speech, and mindfulness of mind. So it is, of course, harder in a busy, bustling life, but we have extraordinary examples of how and why this is very possible. And just a side note, I am really committed to offering 10-day retreats now, if not every year, every other year. And in the in particular, the Sharavasti curriculum, because this curriculum, in my experience, is brilliant. And if we look at meditation traditions around the world, many traditions within the Buddhist tradition, let's say insight meditation, let's say Goenka, the Zen sesshin, emphasize 10-day retreats, because in 10 days, we can move from the experiences that we have with intermittent meditation, like 20 minutes every day, an hour every day, to either some realizations or some glimpses of realizations that we have with a deeper level from practicing 10 days of unremitting mindfulness. It's sort of a reset to one deeper level of understanding, and it resets essentially all of our expectations, and then we carry this into our meditation lives and our daily life after completing a 10-day experience. And then gradually, one hopes that people will commit to longer retreats. So as I talk about Thrangu Rinpoche's second volume, the introduction only to the second volume, we're hearing it from the perspective of he's talking about experiences now that we hear once we have made a commitment to continuous retreat in longer sequences. And so it's an illumination of the path forward. You may have heard it, you may have intellectual understanding, but the direct experience comes with longer meditation retreats. So he says that shamatha has two characteristics. And the first characteristic is wonderful. One feels that it's important and naturally drawn to it because one feels joy or contentment. So when we've done weekend retreats, long day retreats, some of you I know are very experienced meditators and have done months and months of retreat. But there is a direct experience of joy or contentment arising when one's mind is undistracted. And that joy is a spectrum. It can arise as contentment, or it can arise as something that's blissful. But let's say we do even a short period of undistracted meditation. There is a sense of, there is a home within the mind that has a natural joy and contentment. And then we are drawn to meditation over and over because we have taught ourselves that there is a natural joy, and that our mind, when at peace, is also content and joyful. So it's a transition between seeking joy in outside circumstances to knowing, well, this is actually my home. And the second characteristic is that we understand that our mind is completely trained when we're not struggling anymore or battling with thoughts. So when we're observing distractions, sometimes we have judgments about them. Sometimes we are working with meditation instructions to, let's say, uproot anger, to really find its source and remove it entirely. There are many, many ways of working with the largest kinds of distractions. And we know that some of these things are difficult. But at a certain point, meditation is not about our expectation of what it is or should be, and we're not so swept away like a tidal wave with difficult thoughts and emotions, and we actually experience and learn, well, it's about relaxing. It's relaxing steadfastly with yourself and calming the distractions so that they become meaningless, and then resting without distractions. So this isn't a dull state or a stupor in any way. This is a brightly alert state. And in this state, we begin the Vipassana, or clear seeing, or let's say Mahamudra Vipassana. So we start to be able to clearly see what is relative reality and what is absolute reality. So as we listen to the Dharma more and more, there are many, many texts that talk about the stages of understanding the nature of mind, and that the nature of mind is vast, and it's not married to or bound with conceptuality. And we understand more and more about our experience with arising phenomena as essentially our own mind's experience of the arising phenomena, or an experience of mind. And we start to see that the awareness that is experiencing is free of a constructed self. Now, we can hear things like that, and we can say, this is what they say, and I believe this is true. And, as a Buddhist, I'm supposed to learn about these things. But for a very long time, it's intellectual speculation. What stabilizing our shamatha meditation does is allow the intellect to then investigate and pave the way for direct experience, and then for the clarity of direct experience to arise. And then we know, actually, this is an understanding of a truth that the Dharma has been pointing towards. It can only give an intellectual framework, but there is a truth that it's pointing towards. So it's in this stabilized state that the real investigations can take place. And then we go back to Thrangu Rinpoche's definition of shamatha and vipassana. Vipassana is seeing with clarity, clearly and distinctly, what's illusory and what is the nature of reality, and what is a conceptual construction and what is a direct experience, and resting eventually in a direct experience of the nature of mind. But he's giving us a framework that this is a lifetime investigation that involves commitment of time and effort, commitment of continuous mindfulness, whether it's in retreat or in your home. And as Pema Chodron guides us, we need a steadfastness. We need a steadfastness towards ourselves, towards our potential, towards I'm thinking, seeing Jim here, I'm thinking of sculpture. When you're pouring bronze, there's this crud that arises to the top right before you pour the molten bronze. You have to clear away all of that crud that's on the top, and then you pour this bright yellow-orange molten bronze. So
the dross.
The dross, thank you. So yes, we spend a long time clearing away the dross, learning what non-distraction is, then asking questions in order to see what the nature of our experience is, and is it what we think it is, what we've constructed, or is what we've constructed illusory, and then what is the true nature? And that this is a really long and beautiful process, but one that brings us joy and contentment really at all the stages as we go along. So now we're going to go into meditation, and we'll meditate today, and we have a fairly short time today, but the next two Sundays we'll do a fair amount of meditation, and I might give a little bit of review, but I will be in a retreat preparing for teaching the 10-day retreat in the fall. And so I'll be teaching from retreat. So we will be doing less intellectual understanding and more meditation. So let's start with just sitting straight, letting the spine be straight, and just very simply steadfast with yourself. All the judging we do about how is our meditation going, what meditation should be, just throwing that out the window. This is this moment of nowness. This is the time we have. And so let's be quite experiential. One of the common meditation instructions is just to understand that as we breathe in and breathe out, there's a sensation around our nostrils. So we're not trying to take it any further than that. Breathing in, breathing out, there's a feeling state in just this area of the body. We're not trying to find the nuances of it. We're trying to give our agitated mind a focus so that we can distinguish what is distraction, what is non-distraction. And we will find ourselves distracted, and then we just gently come back because now we're relaxed. Now we know it's not some gigantic thing that's going to happen in 10 minutes, but it is a life. And so we can just relax. Okay, today, the area around the nose, what's my distraction today? What's my level of non-distraction? And when I experience non-distraction, can I rest there? Okay, and we have a good at least 15 minutes. And close. And without breaking your meditation session, just reflect for a minute on the experience of distraction and non-distraction. Some distractions feel, as I was saying, the quality is like being swept away. Some distractions are wishing our mind would be the way we want it to be, or the way we think we want it to be. Judging the meditation session. And for folks who are fairly or very experienced, any movement of mind whatsoever. So if we think of our minds as like a great ocean, just a wave arising from the flatness, just, a tiny bit, just a rocking kind of wave. A movement of the mind, a flicker of distraction. And not to judge your meditation session, but just to understand different qualities of distraction, and that eventually they will all relax, but just noticing. There's a great teacher in the Theravadan tradition from the last generation who said that he always asked his students, could they concentrate for 3 breaths? And he knew if they said yes, they weren't seeing the nuances of distraction. They weren't seeing the flicker of a movement. And again, this is an example of levels of understanding our mind and aspiring to be at the most nuanced understanding of mind and the awareness that's experiencing mind. So, Kathy, if you'd like to do the closing prayers, and then we'll have discussion.
By this virtue, may I achieve omniscience, and may all who travel on the stormy waves of birth, old age, sickness, and death cross the ocean of samsara by defeating all enemies, confusion, the cause of suffering. Bodhicitta, the excellent and precious mind, where it is unborn, may it arise. Where it is born, may it not decline, but ever increase higher and higher. I pray that the Lama may have good health. I pray that the Lama may have long life. I pray that your Dharma activities spread far and wide. I pray that I may not be separated from you. For this realm encircled by snow-covered mountains, you are the source of every benefit and bliss without exception. Tenjin Gyatso, with Avalokiteshvara, may you remain steadfast until samsara's end. Embodiment of the 3 precious jewels, Padmapani, who holds the teachings of the victorious one, seeing the all-goodness meaning with the wisdom eye, may you who are spontaneously established activities live long for hundreds of kalpas. Noble Manjushri, the Lord of Speech, who manifests to hold the teachings of the Triple Gem, who raises the lamp of the sages' teachings, may you who are the light of the Dharma live long for hundreds of kalpas. The one known in the Holy Land as Aryadeva, emanated into the Gar clan of eastern Tibet as Tridingpa, the heart son of Jingten Sungun. May the life of glorious Garchen remain steadfast for 100 eons. We acknowledge that Vajra Dakini Nunnery is on the traditional unceded land of the Wabanaki Confederacy, the stewards of this land for many centuries before European settlement. We honor all Indigenous peoples' beliefs, cultural heritage, their relationship with the land, the knowledge of their elders, and the spirit of the ancient ones. This recognition of Indigenous territorial land and beliefs is a small step along the long road of recognizing the truth of our shared history and moving towards reconciliation. We will continue this journey with our Indigenous neighbors as we weave our past together in right relation. Oops.
Khenmo, you're muted.
Thanks. I was apologizing. My phone is on silent, but it's connected to the computer, so it rings on the computer. So, hey, how wonderful to see you, Barbara. 30, 40 years. Thoughts or reflections this morning on what you understood about your meditation experience?